Welcome to the Mosaic Podcast. We're so happy to have you here. The Mosaic Society is all about celebrating the intersections of our identity, whether it's through culture, spirituality, or civics. We're three friends exploring these paths together. I'm TMarie, your cultural mosaic.
I'm Roseberry, the voice of the spiritual mosaic.
And I'm Shreyaa, bringing in the civic mosaic. Our mission is to strengthen friendships through exploring each other's passions and to inspire confidence for you to show up as your true self in your communities.
We'll be sharing new insights, ideas, and conversations each week with fresh posts every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And of course, this podcast on Sundays. So let's dive in and explore the many intersections of identity together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
Hi.
So today we are focusing on parasocial relationships. I don't really know how we came up with this topic. I know T has a blog post coming out about it at some point, so maybe
It's
we
out
saw
already.
that. Oh, T has a blog post that's already come out on parasocial relationships. So, did you put it out before this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it's a good read. You should go look at it. Um, so that's probably how it initially came up, but we're talking about parasocial relationships, and I feel like we should define parasocial relationships really quickly before we continue going, for those who may not know, because I didn't know parasocial relationships until like a year or so ago.
I feel like a lot of people know what it is, but they don't know the term. Like, they get the concept.
hmm Here it says, this is Google. Google says a parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party, the persona, is completely unaware of this existence. So it's usually with the other person or party who's unaware is like someone who is a media figure, a fictional character, celebrity, etc. So that's a parasocial relationship. So we're going to start off with just talking about how parasocial relationships form and the extremes that they can go to, both the positive and negative extremes that they can go to when people have these relationships with these social media influencers, celebrities, artists, actors, whatever it is. So, anyone want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, fandom culture is built on parasocial relationships. Like, I really feel like they're not mutually exclusive in the slightest, because realistically, without a parasocial relationship, people don't wouldn't care enough, like people wouldn't care enough
hmm
to put certain effort in if you didn't have like that emotional bond and that connection. And so, as Rose mentioned, I do have an article on parasocial relationships. So I've done like some research. And so I was really interested in like the science behind it and like why do people like react this way and why do we care so much? But I'm going to say it in a very no jargon because I'm not a scientific person. And so I needed to understand it myself. But it's pretty much like it arises from like our like inane social nature and the repeated exposure to certain like media figures. What our brain does is like we interpret it as like perceived intimacy and familiarity. Lord.
Familiarity.
Yes. We do that. And so that leads us to feel like this connection, and even though there's like no real reciprocal relationship, we still have feelings that are fueled by it and our desire for companionship. And some of the earliest studies that were done of this was like around the 1950s or whatnot, and it was about TV personalities like your weatherman, because reality is like, realistically, I didn't mean to say reality, realistically, like when you get ready in the morning, a lot of people, they'll turn on the TV, they'll listen to the weatherman. Oh yeah, tell me, do I need an umbrella? Da da da. A lot of people used to do that. So it was
Mm,
like this person that was in your house and would share these in your house, share this information with you, and so you kind of create a bond with them. We don't know them, though. Your weatherman does not know who you are. My dad will always say, Rachel Maddow, that's my girl. Rachel does not know who my father is. But it's like,
same.
you know what I mean? It's something like that. Like, we have these attachments with these people and they don't know us. So I think parasocial relationships are so interesting because everyone kind of has one, but a lot of people don't realize it's
Real.
that and don't classify it that way unless it gets to like the more extreme stuff. Um, But yeah, I think they're great. I think they're so fascinating. When they're positive, I like them.
So I do agree that they're good. I feel like for me, my perception of parasocial relationships isn't the most positive one. Not that I think it's a
Hmm.
negative thing, but when I first learned about parasocial relationships, I was like, okay, do I have any parasocial relationships? Like, let me really think about it. And I do, of course, like you said, like everyone has them. And then I started thinking about my One Direction phase. Oof,
Oof.
oof. Yo, I was a directioner through and through. Like you couldn't tell me nothing, okay? And I think the reason why I have like a slight negative connotation with parasocial relationships is because of that era. Because directioners, we were kind of, I don't want to label us as crazy. Like we were just really passionate. Like I think One Direction was the first boy band to come back after like years of no more boy bands, of like us saying like, oh, boy bands are over. And so like it was a lot of energy, it was a lot of passion, but it was also a lot of like aggressive love in the fandom. Like people just loved One Direction so much they did such extreme things to show that. And I don't think I was ever extreme. Like I was a little cuckoo, but I wasn't like extreme doing crazy things. Um but it was like very competitive spirit. I felt, at least in the fandom that like I grew up with, the people around me who were also directioners. But also I think that's just the people I grew up with. Everyone was kind of competitive. Um, but yeah, when I think of parasocial relationships, it's kind of like, oh, who loves them more? Like how can I show their my love more? And I'm just like, that's kind of crazy. And I feel like ever since One Direction, ever since they like broke up, I mean, I still got that parasocial relationship with One Direction. Like you can't tell me nothing. R.I.P. Liam Payne. You can't tell me nothing. Like I'm still when they go on reunion tour, I'm dropping money. Okay? I'm going to multiple concerts. I'm gonna doll myself up. I'm gonna have a nice meal. I'm not gonna go in the pit because I don't like being touched, but I will be as close as I can. But other than that, I have not been able to develop a parasocial relationship since that age, since 2015. I haven't really been able to like any parasocial relationship I see myself having now, it's from when I was younger because I feel like I was more susceptible when I was younger. And then after like the whole One Direction thing, I wasn't as susceptible. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I'll ever get to that level again. So that's how I view parasocial relationships. It's not negative, but it's not positive. It's kind of just weary. Like it's a caution for me.
Fair.
Hmm.
I don't think they're inherently bad parasocial relationships, but they have
Hmm.
the potential to go both ways.
Especially when the fan base is predominantly like in my opinion, predominantly like adolescent young girls.
Mm.
Because young girls are already mean. Like middle school girls are already mean, high school girls are already mean. I mean, I think our generation is kind of shifting that a bit, but I don't know why we're mean, but we are. And so when the fandom is made up of girls from that age group, I just feel like it kind of starts to define what the fandom is. Because when you start like, oh yeah, I'm a directioner, you start meeting people who are directioners who are young female girls. Some are
I
really nice, some are
It's
great,
boys
some are
too
mean.
though.
No, it's boys too, but
Like
predominantly it's
sports. That's
oh no
insane.
no no.
That's insane.
That's a different conversation. Let's not talk no, let's talk about Tom Brady. Let's talk about Tom Brady and his retirement in a second. But like when it comes to like fandoms, when it comes to like artists, I feel like
Mm.
it's usually more so like girls, younger girls. But yeah, it is sports too. We'll get to Tom Brady. We'll get to Tom Brady because that's crazy. Go ahead, Shreya. What's your opinion of parasocial relationships?
Honestly, um, I know it's natural, but I haven't always felt comfortable with the idea of being attached to someone who has no idea you exist. Um, I find that a little, I don't know why, maybe I have an overinflated sense of ego. I don't like that. It makes me feel like I've lost my self respect. I'm like,
Oh,
I value myself too much to be in love with a person who does not know I exist. He'll probably think I'm
Fair.
a stalker if I reach out to them. So, no. But I've had them.
I respect
I've
that.
had, yeah, I don't know why. It's just, like I said, an overinflated sense of self. Yeah, but I've had a few when I was younger. There was this one TV show that I really liked. Never with actual people, funnily enough. It's always been with
Mm.
fictional characters.
Fictional characters, I go crazy. Like I can't. I have a list of characters that I've gone into on such a level that it's embarrassing. I still do. But yeah, then I have no shame with fictional characters. My sense of self-respect is intact because you don't exist. Yeah.
Fair.
But I've seen a lot of parasocial relationships are really a sort of unhealthy um, association with people, celebrities in India. Like, I've seen people treat superstars or like actors like God. Like, they would worship them. They would do the actual Hindu worship thing. And I'm like, stop. Please stop. This is embarrassing. Stop. Um, but it's a different culture altogether. I think they associate with that person, that personality so much that they are in awe of them.
Hmm.
Um, and it's fine as long as it's about supporting someone who's going through a tough time. It's all right if you're trying to be happy for them when they're successful or give them a courage and some sort of support when they're going through a tough time. But when it becomes unhealthy and unhinged, when you start um, becoming toxic, we can talk about that later. But it becomes toxic sometimes. You start attacking people because they say something against your favorite whatever. So yeah, good and bad.
Literally, on that note, when I was like thinking about this before we filmed, I was like, this really connects to cancel culture. Like, when it comes to parasocial relationships, as you're creating a fandom and you all feel really strongly emotionally connected to this one person, you feel the need to defend them. Or you feel the need to, like, quote unquote, get rid of their enemies or their ops. Like, you just feel that need. So, like, once someone gets canceled and it's like, oh, okay, I'm making this up. I'm just making this up. Oh, I'm a Taylor Swift fan and um I don't know, Selena Gomez is getting canceled. I don't like Selena Gomez because she's getting in the way of Taylor Swift. Let's jump on that bandwagon. Like, you just have more of a you have a stronger force going after someone when it comes to cancel culture when you incorporate the parasocial relationships and fandoms that are happening. But on the other hand, like, they do give those fandoms, they give you the opportunity to connect and feel like you belong somewhere and um, kind of tap into your creativity in the ways that you want to express yourself. Because I feel like at the end of the day, that's kind of at the core of parasocial relationships. Like, you kind of feel like they're an extension of you, or you can express yourself on a larger scale. And so that's a positive. But when the fandom gets together in a quote unquote toxic way, it can be very detrimental to either the person they're supporting or others that they're against.
I agree.
Right. I also think that
Yeah.
there's this level of dissociation from the consequences of your actions in the sense that
Yeah.
um, because you're so connected and you're so moved by this one particular person and you're so agitated by something that by a perceived slight by someone else or some other celebrity, you paint them the enemy and then you do
Hmm.
whatever you can to protect this person and you don't realize that maybe you're going overboard because you think it's just one mean tweet or you think it's a small
Hmm.
action but you don't realize the consequences it has on people because you're sitting in a box, you're sitting in a room and you're doing all these things. You don't know what.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There. I just came up with a good example. The Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter quote unquote beef. Quote unquote beef. That was not beef. It was honestly blown out of proportion.
I
But
didn't even tune in. I was like, this just feels so minor. They'll
it
figure it out.
literally it was I honestly think the fandoms made that a bigger deal than it was. And so do you know it, Shreya?
No.
Okay. Basically, long story short, Olivia Rodrigo's debut single, I was gonna say
Driver's
Driver's Area.
license.
Driver's License. Driver's Area is Ross Lynch's band. Driver's License. When that came out, basically she was talking about, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, I really don't, but the story is in the song she used to date this dude or talk to this dude, Joshua Bassett, who was her co-star, and then like he stopped talking to her to be with Sabrina Carpenter. And then everyone took that. And to be fair, Olivia Rodrigo's storytelling, like the way she writes, it's not hard. Older than me, blonde hair. Like she was basically kind of describing Sabrina Carpenter. And then Sabrina Carpenter has a song called All Because I Liked a Boy, where kind of she's not responding to Olivia, she's responding to the experience as a whole because she got like death threats. Like it was insane. People were hating on her, they were trying to cancel her, giving her death threats, everything. And like at that point they weren't even together, like her and Joshua Bassett. And you know what the gag is? He's gay. He comes out he comes out as gay. He comes out as gay like a year later, or 2 years later. Like it's and then he was being like he got to the point where he was in the hospital because he had so much
Oh,
stress, and like his heart, he was having like something with stress in his heart. Like it was so bad, all because people
wow.
wanted to like quote unquote protect Olivia Rodrigo. But I really think what it was is they've been in similar situations and they couldn't react the way they wanted to, so they could now. That's everything.
Okay.
All this for him to be gay. Like
I'm sorry,
that's
it's just
crazy.
funny. So wait, so there's this guy, if I understand this correctly, there's a guy who dated Olivia
Mhm.
and then broke up with her and then dated Sabrina.
Yeah, but I think it was they weren't him and Olivia weren't really dating. I think they were like in the talking stage where you're like hanging out and
So he
you're
didn't make any commitment to her, did he?
I don't we don't know. No, they don't talk about it. They don't confirm it. They don't deny it. These are just speculations. So we
So,
don't really know what happened. We just know that there was a switch from Olivia to Sabrina, and Olivia was like, I got my driver's license last week and I
eh?
can't tell you. And I'm just driving by your house and neighborhood and I can't tell you. And we said we were always going to celebrate this, blah, 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 whatever. So it's a really good song.
Interesting.
But,
I find it really weird that people are hating. Why do women have to go after the other woman when it's the dude who was the common link?
and he,
I'm not
honestly,
even, yeah.
wait,
No,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm not a discount whatever he went through. You said he went through stress and he was in the hospital. I feel for him, but it seems like he just didn't know what he wanted and it's okay.
They're just kids.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
They're just
chill
young.
out.
That's insane. Anyway, that
Yeah.
was like a side description. I just feel like that's a good example of like a fandom parasocial relationship ODing.
Oh,
Um,
what about the entire thing? I'm not sure if this counts, but the entire thing with, oh, I forgot her name. Justin Bieber's wife, now maybe
yeah,
ex-wife,
Haley
what was
Bieber, Selena,
Haley,
yeah,
right? Haley Bieber and Selena Gomez.
that's another example.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a year long. That's years long. That takes too much to dive
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Driver's license was like a few months, like
Okay.
I think. But yeah, that's a good example. But let's go into sports. See, because we've been talking about parasocial relationships specifically when it comes to, I guess,
Music.
audiences that
Yeah.
are like more young with women, or I guess not middle age, like young adult with women. But men also have these parasocial relationships.
Yeah. You were talking about Tom Brady. I don't know nothing about that man. I really don't. So maybe
Oh,
you can add about Tom Brady. But I was speaking generally, with sports. I just think it's really interesting the way in society it's viewed,
hmm
where sports fans are viewed a certain way, and it's male dominated. But of course, there's female fans of sports as well. But then it's looked differently if you're like a music fan. Like they will look at someone who's a part of the Beehive a certain way, but not look at a Golden State Warriors fan the same way. And I think the way that it's socially acceptable to be a sports fan but not be a part of a music fandom is just crazy. Because, okay, look at it. You have a favorite team. I have a favorite K pop group. You have a favorite member. That's my bias. We're the same. You're buying $100 worth of tickets. I'm gonna go and get my concert tickets and go to multiple stops. Well, I won't, but like people do. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's so crazy just the different perceptions. And I don't know if it's a gender thing. I really don't, but I just think it's so crazy. And men won't admit that it's like, it's a parasocial, it's okay. You like LeBron James. You have his poster in your room. And you know what? You better put up that poster. It's okay. It's a parasocial relationship, but it's okay. But I don't like that. And I noticed there's like just a really bad perception of like, oh, music fans, though, it's like it's teenage girls, but for men, it's just not seen that way in sports. So that's what I was gonna say about sports, because I just feel like they're the same, but they don't get the same rep, and it's
Yeah.
negative. So
I'm
I mean,
basically,
I'm sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna explain the Tom Brady thing, but you can go.
Go ahead, go ahead. Okay, wait, just one thing then, because it's related to this. I think it's because it's seen as feminine. Fandoms associated or I mean, basically fan groups associated with bands is seen very feminine. And I think the image that comes to their mind is like screaming girls throwing their bras at the on stage. I think that's the image that comes to their head or everyone's head when they think of fandom when it comes to music groups. You know?
Yeah, I was. I mean, we're all kind of touching on the same thing. The whole thing with Tom Brady. I'm happy you brought up gender, T, because literally, basically when Tom Brady retired, it was like this whole thing where like all these sorry. I'm not
Google this,
laughing at
man.
them. I'm laughing at the situation, okay? Basically all these guys were like crying and they were putting up on Twitter like forever, like you're the GOAT, like and they were like basically like imagine if like BTS decided to like retire, which is not happening anytime soon, right? But if BTS decided to retire, all these people and the fandom for BTS, I think, is a fandom that needs to be analyzed because it honestly does go beyond just like young girls, like most, I'm gonna say boy bands, but they're K-pop, but like groups, bands. And so like it goes into both genders, different races. It just needs to be analyzed. But people would be tweeting like, oh, I love you. You guys helped me through so much, da, da, da. And that's what the guys were doing about Tom Brady. And so I think it was on Twitter where like a bunch of girls would like they were like quoting it and they'd be like, but when I cried when Zayn left, I was being too emotional. Oh, but when I tell you how I feel and that I love you, all you can say is thanks. Like they were just going in about how men can express themselves better when it comes to sports and like their favorite sports player than when it comes to themselves, which is I guess it's a positive thing because I think when it comes to masculinity and today's society, how we don't really talk about it and we're like, be strong, don't cry, don't be emotional. So like sports gives them an outlet, but then at the same time, it's like it shouldn't be the only outlet to the point
yeah,
where it's like this whole trend about like why are you crying over Tom Brady? And it wasn't even like or it wasn't even like women trying to like bring men down. I mean, I'm sure there was some. There's always some.
yeah,
But it's similar to what you said, T. Like, it's okay. It's just the same thing we do, but when we do it, it's a problem. When we do it, when it has to do with us, it's like we're doing too much, but you just did the same thing.
hmm
But I don't really know how men reacted to that. I only know how women reacted to that. So that's the whole Tom Brady thing. It always makes me laugh because I'm like, literally, it's the same exact situation. It's just one has a football and one has a microphone. That's it.
yep.
Hmm. But wasn't
Wow.
this man old when he retired for the
Yeah,
sports for an athlete?
but he was good. He literally, let me not. I don't know sports. I don't know football.
I
Let me not. I was
I'm
gonna
gonna
mean,
say
have
I think
age
he.
gonna have to put a
appropriate
correction.
age appropriate
I'm like,
retirement age. That's what I was wondering.
I think he lasted longer than most people when they
Mm-hmm.
retire. Um, but I think that happens with a lot of people who are just talented. Like he honestly was just talented. He was really good at what he did. And you have all these men and women, especially men, have every right to be upset about it and like celebrate it. But don't be upset when we do it too. Like when Zayn leaves One Direction.
I wonder if we're gonna see something similar, because I think LeBron's about to retire soon. I wonder if we'll see a repeat.
Another wave.
Yeah,
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't have Twitter. Well, I haven't had Twitter since like freshman year of college, but I refuse to get it again because look, we're not getting political. Let me stop.
Next
Let
question.
me keep it. Let me keep it in. But I'm excited to see what people say on Twitter on TikTok. Like I'm excited to see from there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Okay. Anyone have a question they want to ask next?
Yes. In what ways does social media change the way we form parasocial connections compared to old school media like movies and TV? Can I go first?
Mm.
Hmm.
Thank you. Okay, so I read an article when I was researching for my blog post about how the shift has kind of taken on from like a one-sided one-sided like relationship, which was like the traditional parasocial relationship, to nowadays it's more of like a 1.5-sided
Mm,
relationship. And this article was mainly focused around like streamers, but you can attach it to like social media in general and what that has kind of done for the parasocial landscape. But they're talking about how back in the day, like when it was like the weatherman or like an actor, like there is a natural distance between the
mhm.
audience and then a public figure. But now with things like social media and streaming, you can actually directly interact with people now. And so that has kind of created a culture where not only does the audience, we get something from that connection, but also in some ways the public figure also gets something from it as well. And I think that's interesting because that kind of goes into like my idea of what a good parasocial relationship is. I feel like as long as it's mutually beneficial for both sides, that's a good parasocial relationship. And anytime one side takes more than they should, that's when it kind of crumbles and it becomes this toxic
Yeah.
mess. So I feel like when you have, as the audience, you get, entertainment, maybe education, healing, an outlet. But on the other side, it's like they get fame, they get paid. It can be healing for them as well. um, that's great. That's where most things should stay. I think we wouldn't have half the problems that we do in fan culture if it just stayed that way. But I
Yeah.
think when it turns into entitlement on the side of the audience, where we feel like, oh, I'm meanly speaking K-pop right now because that was what my article was about and that's what I related it to in terms of entitlement. If you're mad that that man or woman has a relationship, you're entitled, because who are you?
Mm-hmm.
If you feel some type of way that they made this decision or that decision and they're grown ass people, I feel like that's entitlement, and that's when you have to dial it back and touch some grass respectfully. And
Mhm.
then I feel like on the other side, you can sorry.
Sorry. I was listening so intently. I was like, yeah. I was like, touch grass.
It's true though. People need to touch grass sometimes. But I think on the other side, I think you can see where the public figures themselves or their companies start to take more than they should. I think that's where you
Hmm.
can really, I don't, is this the right phrase? Financially abuse the
Yeah.
fandom. I think that's another side where it turns kind of toxic because you are then taking these emotions that people feel and you're using it for your own gain more than you should. So
Hmm.
that was a lot. But yeah, it has definitely shifted. And I think social media has helped foster more direct connections between public figures and fans, which I think when it's good, it's good. As I said, I think there's a lot of positives.
No, I agree. I think K-pop's like I I was introduced to parasocial relationships before K-pop, but like I never really thought about it. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I thought about it with me, but not necessarily in general. And then when you guys like introduced me to K-pop, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is this is a lot of parasocial relationships. But I do think a lot of K-pop fans model positive parasocial relationships. Like I think a lot of relationships between fans and groups work really well. It's just like anything, there's always extremes. Um, for me, so okay, I was thinking of this as like when I was thinking of like old school media, I went to like the 2000s. I really didn't go that far back. I was thinking of like when paparazzi was the thing. When paparazzi is where we
Mm.
got most of our information and like the tabloids like TMZ and all that, whatever. Um, And I just, to me, I felt like at that point in time, it was easier for those public figures to be able to control their narrative. They had the social media training. They were able to put out a narrative of what they wanted. It, not that it was inauthentic, but it was scripted in a way. Like they were able to control what people thought of them. And then like the only time it was like this chaos and like this PR crisis is when a paparazzi got a picture of them doing something that doesn't really fit the narrative or when like some history came out. And so with social media, like you said, it's a lot more personal. Like it breaks down that fourth wall that you normally see. But I also think it gives people the opportunity to actually give their opinion, voice their concerns, which again can be positive, but like I have two examples of negative ones from TikTok. I was texting you guys about Monet and Jalen on TikTok, which I still don't fully understand why, but basically like Jalen had said something about like them going financially 50-50 in a relationship and how he doesn't see a provider as someone who's just a financial provider, like a provider of so many things. And I think a lot of Monet's fans, because they both have their separate following and then kind of combined following after they got together. But I think a lot of Monet's fans felt the need to like, I guess in a way, protect her so she doesn't like fall into a trap or do go for the wrong guy. I really don't fully understand the purpose behind it, but now it's like ever since then, every video she posts or video he posts, especially when the videos like they don't post videos together really anymore as much, but they just bought a new house and she was like, "This is our house, this is our thing." And then I haven't seen his video talking about the house itself, but I saw his video talking about the at-home gym that they're building in the barn. And he was like, "So this is my gym." But his content centers around fitness and health. Her content centers around lifestyle. There's some fitness in there, of course, because it's lifestyle, but like beauty more so. And so people are like, he's saying our house, Monet. He doesn't even care. At every single comment, it's like, he doesn't care about you. Oh, to be with Monet, do better. Da 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 da. I'm like, it's their relationship. Like, I'm so confused. Like, I understand people's need to like want to show their opinion to like protect her or be like, oh, this is a red flag. But not everyone's red flag is not your red flag is everyone's red flag, you know?
Yeah.
So like I feel like in situations like that, because my other example is another like relationship on TikTok. Like they've been together, it's Eileen and Devin. They've been together since they were like 16, I think, like 12 years. They're not engaged, they're not married, and they just announced that they're pregnant, right? And like it wasn't planned or anything, and they decided to keep the baby and like to share it. If you go to every single post underneath, no ring, oh my God, you should ask him for a ring. You should ask him for a wedding. And I'm just like, you guys are projecting your insecurities and your worries onto these people. So sometimes I do like the older days where they had the social media training and they could just control the narrative because now I feel like people feel, like you said, too entitled to
Hmm.
go in and tell their opinion about someone else's life. Like they're choosing to share it, so they have every right to do that because you're putting it out there, right? Monet and them, they're putting it out there, but you should have a certain boundary that you don't cross. Like every video shouldn't be like, no ring. Wow, baby first, skipped a couple chapters. Like, please, shut up. Like T said, go touch some grass. Like leave people alone. But there's no boundaries there. Like there's no social media regulations. There's obviously like if you use like derogatory comments or slurs or stuff, they'll like report it and
Hmm.
catch it and like no cyberbullying. But even then, social media is so free. It's just out there. There's no regulations. And so it's harder for people to be able to keep those boundaries because the boundaries aren't being drawn unless the artist or the public figure themselves draw it.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's crazy because especially I feel like influencers, that's a whole other category that like wasn't
Hmm.
here just a few maybe like a decade ago. But it's so insane because it's like you see maybe a 20-minute video out of someone's life when there's
Yeah.
24 hours in the day and people make so many judgments just based off of what they see. It's ugh. For me, the couple that I know that I see that with is Queen and Clarence. Love them. But it's like people
Mhm.
always talk about how they have a kid and they're not married and it's been like 6 years. That's a normal dating time for a lot of people. They do have a kid but and live together, but that's fine. Like it's you don't have to live your that life, so why are you mad? That's my point.
It's their relationship. Like I said, if you put your relationship out, that was I'm not talking about Eileen and Devin. That was Jalen's mistake, okay? Like honestly, feel free to talk about your relationship if that's what you want, but you better be able to take the heat that comes with it, especially if your
Mm.
opinion is unpopular. But if that relationship works for them, they're obviously both happy from what they show. Like just leave it alone. Like I
Yeah.
don't understand. And I promise you, it's kind of what Shreya said earlier, like if I don't know how you worded it, but like it's like one tweet. It's like one comment.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
people don't realize the magnitude of what they're saying, like how it's affecting people. And they feel this power because it's like no one's gonna know you. But I promise you, if we looked into you, you probably have three baby daddies. You probably were sitting there. No, no, no. Let's be honest. You probably are in a 10-year long situationship, not relationship, situationship, where you are the mistress. Like, let's really talk about it because you keep judging these people and your life is no better. I digress. I digress. I'm not gonna be too mean, but like these people are really disrespectful. They're having a baby. They just bought a new house. Just say congratulations or don't say anything at all. Just leave it alone.
Yeah,
I'm done.
yeah, that's interesting. I actually agree with both of you on most of it. It, I actually went back when I was looking at whether it's changed from TV and movies, old school media to now, and I thought of this one example of this one actor. I think his name was Rajesh something, Rajesh Khanna. Yeah, famous actor, heartthrob. I don't know why, but a heartthrob. Um, and women went crazy over this man. They were in love with this person. And when he decided to get married in his early 30s, mind you, he wasn't in his 20s. He wasn't super young. Early 30s, in the 60s or the 70s. Girls wrote suicide notes, sent him letters written in blood, which they still did, which was a thing in India up until maybe the early 2010s when people said, please stop, it's creepy. And we love you, thank you for all your love, but this is really creepy, stop, please. And that's when they stopped doing that. But they would write letters in blood and they would send it to them. They would cut themselves, they would get the person's name tattooed on their arm. It was crazy. So what they loved about this person was not who he was, but who he portrayed to be. So his
Hmm.
public persona was what they loved. And then they imagined that, oh, this person was portraying, let's say, a police officer in this movie or a famous surgeon in this movie. Oh, he's basically the perfect son, husband, brother, father, man in general. And they created the personality for the actor themselves. But they didn't know him, right? They didn't know who this
Hmm.
person was. And I think up until when paparazzi became super active, and I think up until when social media became a big thing, there was this facade, I think, between, or not facade, how do I say? There was a distance um,
Hmm.
between the actor or the public figure and their audience, whom they loved, and the audience loved them. They enjoyed all of that. Um, but their private personality remained private. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard this question. What is he like in person? Or what is she like in person? Is she actually as nice as people say she is? Or is she
Hmm.
actually a meanie or you can beat this out. People ask questions like that because you don't know what they are in reality. I don't know about the United States, but in India, what has happened is when social media became a big thing, people started talking about who they were like they started judging every aspect of their life because you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
One way is that somebody who really likes you for the work that you have done is able to get a response back, a like or a heart or oh thank you, also a comment back on their post, which makes them feel like they're able to associate with each other, like you said, Rose, that there's this connection. So but it also opens you up to a lot of judgment or all the judgment. Um and there's no filtering out those comments and what people have to say about what you're doing and how you're doing whatever it is that
Hmm.
you're doing. Because of that, I know that there's one point where it's not curated anymore, that people are not able to curate. Rose mentioned, you mentioned this about how earlier it was authentic but scripted, right?
Hmm.
I feel that's happening now in India where it's no people are no more authentic. They're all scripted. They have a PR person sitting right next to them telling them what they should say, what they shouldn't say, what is relatable, what is not relatable, how they should not behave in a certain way, how they should not say certain things. So if you see interviews these days, at least from Indian actors and celebrities or anybody of any influence from India, it feels really bland because they're not showing who they truly are. Like
Hmm.
they'd say things like, "Oh, I love Indian food." I'm like, please, you're not eating Indian food at home. I know you're not. Oh, I just love my dal chawal. I love dahi chawal, which is basically like lentil and please. You're eating a carrot steak or a celery steak, or you're having some continental something. Okay, please. You're fooling no one. And it's just,
I mean, they're fooling someone.
yeah, like what are you trying? You're trying to pass off this because they think the middle class is relatable. They're like, oh, I have these habits, I have these middle class habits, and I'm like, silver spoon in your mouth perpetually. It's okay to be who you are. Just be who you are. And yeah, it's just I feel that it's made them more cautious because they don't want to be cancelled. But yeah.
Do you feel like there could be truth to it? Because like, and maybe it's just different. If someone told me like they loved American food, I'd be like, okay, you love American food. But if someone was like, yeah, I wake up every day at 5 a.m. and this is my exact schedule that I follow, I would be like, that's your ideal schedule. That doesn't mean you follow it
Yeah.
every day, you know? So do you think like there's certain truth to what they're saying? It's just dressed up to be different?
I think it's exaggerated to a large extent. I also think that all of a sudden everybody in a particular generation is eating the same kind of food, is suddenly enjoying the same kind of food. Really? Is that something I'm supposed to buy? Like, no. I find it hard to believe. Am I going to make a big fuss about it? No. You do you. Is it what you want to say? Okay. But I do see that it hasn't. I do see that there's somebody sitting there and writing stuff down that, oh, you should do this. You should say namaste when you get off your car. You should smile at everyone. You should never show that you're actually upset when you're upset. You should say these things,
Hmm.
things like that. And I just feel that it's pushing people to be a little more inauthentic in certain parts or certain pockets. I'm not saying that it's true across the board. At least in India, I see that
Hmm.
it's making them inauthentic.
I think it's a cultural thing
Or is
too,
it
not just like
unauthentic? I'm
India,
sorry. Is it okay?
inauthentic.
Great. I thought it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Honestly, I think it's inauthentic. Now I'm questioning
Should I
myself.
Google it?
Um,
Inauthentic. Inauthentic.
Okay.
and oh no, inauthentic. Okay. I think though it's a cultural thing. Hold on, I have to stretch. It's a big stretch. Okay. Ooh, my shoulders. Okay. I do think that it's a cultural thing though. Like when I'm not saying like India versus America. I think just countries and cultures that have some type of tradition and history that goes beyond like America's still fairly new. I'll always say that. Like they're still fairly new. When you talk about India, when you talk about a lot of countries in Africa, when you start talking about um,
European
um
country.
European, like especially um not very Eastern, especially Eastern European countries. Yeah, I just because to me, I feel like Western Europe is the East Coast for America, and Eastern Europe is the West Coast for Europe or for America. I
Mm.
in my head, so I always have to double flip it. Anyway, especially when you start talking about like Eastern cultures and the different traditions that they have. Yeah, I think it's literally just a cultural thing. Like I feel like if I looked at public figures in Senegal and their PR, it probably would be a lot similar to Indian culture. But I think it's because American culture prioritizes quote unquote life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, like freedom. Not that other countries don't do that, but that's what America prides itself on. So all these different, I feel like there's a lot more different varieties of PR. There's a lot more different varieties of what we consider to be authentic that can get away with it because America is such a, I don't like saying this, but America is such a melting pot. You can get away with being closer to yourself more because there's millions of people who have different um, identities and viewpoints and all that. But when you go to like countries that have a more communal aspect of the way that they live, they have a more traditional aspect to the way that they live, it's easier to zero in on what we've already established as tradition is not better, but like as tradition is art, you can't go against like how do I say? I'm trying to think of an example. I'm gonna make it up. So like in Senegal, predominantly Muslim country, you can't go against people always saying assalamu alaikum. Like that's always just gonna be a norm. If you can't go against people saying like, oh yeah, I love eating supa kanja and chebujin because that's just the norm, right? Like it still feels inauthentic. It is a hyperbole in the ways that they exaggerate it. I agree with you. Um, but I think we don't see that as much in America because of the fact that America is so big. and so diverse, and the quote unquote values that we stand by are have to deal with the fact of people being so different. But it is an interesting comparison. Like it would be nice to compare the two.
Hmm. I don't think I see what you're saying, but I don't think it's about tradition and culture because people were, if you go back 10 years ago, even 10 years ago, you'd find that people were more able to be themselves. And it doesn't have to be, and India's not homogeneous, far from it. Um, it's about what people would consider to be appealing. It could be anything. You understand? It's not about being Indian. It's about being appealing, about getting that societal approval. So it's not about culture or tradition there.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
Mm. No, I'm not denying that. No, no, I'm just saying that. So I think it's a little more about fear of being cancelled and the fear that you'd be termed privileged. That's what the issue is, I think. But I do see what you're saying. I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about that. I think it's the same thing. I just think the way that Americans versus more traditional um countries go about cancel culture and parasocial relationships differ. But like I agree with everything you're saying because I'm sure like it's the same 10 years ago in Zimbabwe or Congo, Senegal, wherever it was. It probably was easier to get by with it, but now because of social media and again, the lack of regulations, it's just harder. You have to be more polished, whatever it's called.
Mm.
Polished?
No, I don't know. Maybe this requires a longer discussion at some other point. But I don't think it's about being polished or that people didn't like you then, but they didn't have a means to say it. It's about people being okay with whatever was happening and people becoming more rigid now because of what they anyway, it's I think this has more to do with cancel culture than it does with parasocial
Yeah, it does.
relationships. So maybe that's why. But
Hmm.
no, I really don't think India's parasocial relationships have a lot to do with tradition or culture. But that's because we've rapidly evolved in the past 30, 40 years where one family is not the same as the other, even if you're in the same status, socioeconomic status or community. There's no, I mean, communal living is dying down. So anyway, it's cancel culture. It's not parasocial.
Yeah, parasocial and cancel culture just again, like
This
I
is
said when I was
getting
thinking about it
like,
earlier, they're intertwined.
yeah, yeah.
They're really intertwined. Um, okay, I did have a question that I wanted to ask. So let's get into
Okay.
because it is a more personal question.
Oh,
I'm really excited. So I wanted to know what y'all's not your first time connection, parasocial connection, because like we said, like I could say Dora. All right, I love Dora. But like, what was the first like real parasocial relationship that you felt? Okay, Shreya, please.
okay.
Well, what was the first parasocial relationship that you felt where you could like looking back identify that's a parasocial relationship? And then have you developed any others? And how do you distinguish having like an admiration for them in that parasocial relationship versus like a very deep emotional connection, positive or negative?
Um, I think my first ones that I remember, Harry Potter. Everything that happened to those characters, I felt on a deep emotional level, like it was happening to me. Um, and then I don't know if y'all know this group, Mindless Behavior. I used to love
1, 4, 3, a smiley with
Smiley
a
with
wink.
a Wink. I used to love Mindless Behavior. Um, that was like one of the first groups that I remember kind of like actively trying to find out who they were outside their music. Like normally with most music, I don't care about the artist. I'm there for the music, so I don't seek out information
Hmm.
about the artist themselves. I just like the music. But with them, I was like watching their interviews. I st- I think they're still somewhere upstairs. I had the magazines. It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. But yeah, I used to love mindless behavior. Um Nowadays, I think I still have like varying degrees of like parasocial relationships with like different books and movies and television. My main one, they already know. I'm an ARMY. I love BTS, but I don't let it consume me. Like I think that's something that's just important in general. But yeah, that they're a group that I feel like I get a lot of healing from. I learn from them. So I do have an emotional attachment to BTS. I would say they're kind of like um I would say that's like the main parasocial relationship I have, and like the other ones it's like it's not as deep. But yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I always think about when you say, "Oh, I'm an army." I don't know if you showed me the video or someone else showed me a video where RM is like speaking to a crowd of fans, and the question is like, or someone said like, "I counted how many." Sorry,
What?
they were like, "I counted." Sorry. It literally cracks me up every time. They said, "I counted how many times you guys said the word run in the song Run BTS or in the song Run, one of them."
Run.
And he was like, guys, this is an obsession now. This should not consume your life. Go have fun, enjoy your life. We love you, but no, go to school. Like he was he was so concerned, rightfully so. What is it? In the chorus alone, it starts with run, run, run. And then they repeat that multiple times. You sat there and counted that? Like he was so concerned. So every time you say you're an army or people talk about BTS fandom, I think about
That
that.
is hilarious. I'm so sorry.
They
What's
have a whole
wrong with you?
song. They have a whole song called Pied Piper where they're like put down the phone, stop searching through like all our videos. You'll have time later. Go live your life. Like
Literally.
the photos will still be there. You say it's just like an hour, but then it turns into a year of you just doing this instead of doing what you're supposed to do. And it's so funny because I feel like it's a meme now where people are like, I'm listening to the words, but I'm really just dancing. They're like, we're just doing the opposite of what y'all told us to do. But yeah, oh my goodness.
Oh wow,
They
that's
try
Oh
to
my
they
hilarious.
gosh.
try to help us out. They're like, please live your life, but
Oh, that's
No,
they
nice.
like
don't listen. Yeah.
it's so sweet, and they do it in such a sweet way.
Yeah.
Like in such a sweet way. But he literally said, "This is not love. This is an obsession." And I was like, "Dang." And the whole time people are in the crowd smiling, cheering, woo! And I'm like, it's not clicking. It's not clicking.
Oh,
Oh
that's
my
hilarious.
God.
Oh God.
Whew, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Rose.
So for me, I feel like, wait, let me double check before I start talking. So it's two. I feel like the first really deep emotional connection was One Direction, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was like 10. One Direction was the first time, I always say One Direction was my introduction to music, with the exception of musicals. Like I always listen to musicals, but One Direction was like being a directioner, I was able to actually start to learn music, understand like the composition of it, how they created it, the different avenues you can go down, and then I was able to compare One Direction with different artists. So I found a lot of artists that I liked. Um, and similar to you, T, it was my first time actually like, okay, what are you outside of the song? Like, okay, I still remember where I was when I first heard One Direction. I was in the car coming back from Quran class. My dad was driving. My uncle was in the passenger seat, and we were all sitting there. And What Makes You Beautiful came on. I was like, I like this song. And then I went and I listened to it. And then I spent the entire night diving into One Direction. Like sometimes it is like there's no explanation for it. I
Mm-hmm.
guess in that time in my life, that's something that I needed, like that type of obsession. Sorry. That type of like love maybe, or
Mm-hmm.
that sounds not love. I needed an interest at that time in my life because I did a lot at school, extracurriculars, and then I also like my main quote unquote hobby was volleyball. And I've already told you guys like it's a running joke in my family. I should have quit after like 2 years. Like I played for 10 years and I didn't fully like the sport. And so I think One Direction was a different avenue of
Hmm.
like
Mm.
interest and expression, like I said. Um, but my first parasocial relationship has to be Demi Lovato. I was
Mm.
4 years old watching her and Selena trying to get Barney in that pool, singing their little songs. Like I didn't realize this until maybe someone asked me like why I liked Demi Lovato so much in high school. I was like, what do you mean why? She was in Barney. She was in As the Bell Rings or As the Bell Rings. I think that's what it's called. It's like a short, like commercial break TV show on Disney. Camp Rock, Princess Protection Program. Don't get me started on her albums. Her albums smack. Okay? She is so talented and she is so good. And so I think Demi Lovato is the only like parasocial relationship I have now that has lasted through time. Every other parasocial relationship I seem to form just kind of like goes away. Similar to what Shreya said, like I don't want to seem crazy in a way, like they don't know who I am. And also I don't need that anymore. Like with One Direction, like I needed an interest, I needed a hobby. I'm good. Like I can express myself in different ways. I think Shawn Mendes is the closest I had after One Direction to having a parasocial relationship, but I think it was more emotional thing because I think Shawn Mendes is a really good lyricist and a lot of his music spoke to me. So I was like really zoomed in. And then when I actually like was okay and not insane and like actually processed what was going on in my head, and I could speak my own emotions, it went away. So like it serves its
Mm.
purpose and that's it. But Demi Lovato is like I consistently follow her and make sure like she's good. You know, she had her trouble, but she be owning up to it. And like I just I'll always love Demi Lovato. Like for my Secret Santa, my senior year of high school, someone gave me like a Demi Lovato best friend like care package. Like there's I still have it. It's a mini frame of Demi Lovato and on her shirt it says Rose equals best friend. Now that was OD. That was crazy. I know it was like a gag gift. That was OD, but I still have it. I have it. I still have it. So I don't know. I guess that's the only emotional connection. Everyone else is like admiration. Like we three, 5 seconds of summer, admiration. But Demi, that's my girl. That is my girl.
I wanted to say something to the point, really quick, about it was an avenue that you need to take. Like it was just something that you
Hmm.
needed at the time. And I forgot to mention other parasocial relationship that I forgot I had was I was a mixer for years. I loved Little Mix as
Mm,
well. And Jesse left the group in December of 2020. And one of the things I loved about Little Mix, the female empowerment, their sisterhood, that was one of the crowning
yeah.
things about them for me. And I found BTS January of 2021, and I think their brotherhood, I think I was searching for that because I felt like not like their sisterhood was shattered, but it just didn't feel the same after Jesse left. And that was
Hmm.
before all the drama happened later, obviously. But I think that kind of filled the gap for what I felt I lost from Little Mix. And I think that's why another reason why I initially was like, oh my goodness, BTS, they're great. Look at
Yeah.
them as people, not just like their music. Um, so yeah, but that's another one I forgot. I loved Little Mix. I can't leave my girls out because they, especially through high school, you need a Little Mix. You need that female empowerment. But yeah, I think now BTS kind of naturally felt that. And I don't think I'm as much as a mixer now just because they're not active anymore. I
Yeah.
see a few of their solo stuff, but yeah. Yeah. Also,
I-
what you said, like the distance, the healthy distance. Yes, none of us are Delulu. If
Yeah.
we're Delulu, it's for fun, and we know that we're being Delulu, for real. But yeah, I don't know those men. They don't know me. It's admiration. It's nothing.
Sorry, I was thinking about son. I did wait.
You
I have
didn't
to.
mention 18.
Yes, I
Wait,
literally. And you know
hold
what's
on,
crazy?
hold on. We cannot
I
do this.
forgot.
We cannot do this without talking about your concert plan.
Yeah, I forgot. Like I literally just forgot, and I'll explain because I was just about to say to T, I was gonna be like, I thought you were gonna bring a Little Mix, but you hadn't. So I was like, oh, maybe it's not as like a parasocial relationship like I thought it was.
It
But
was.
yeah,
I just forgot.
so they're laughing at me because I'm a really big fan of ATs. I would consider myself an AT. T introduced them to me last summer when, well, before we went to their concert. And I just really love it. Like, I love what they stand for. I think they're a very, very unique group, K-pop group. Again, like I'm still new to K-pop, but I haven't really seen something like ATs ever since T has introduced it to me. Both music-wise, but also like in their personality. Like, they're just weird. I love it. Um, but yeah, so like when T was first introducing me to K-pop, she explained like the terms like bias and all that. I didn't understand. And for those who don't know, bias is basically, wait, is it like your favorite in the group?
Yeah.
Yeah. So bias is your favorite in the group. And when I was introduced, my bias was San. It was not a like conscious thing. It was just every time she showed me a video, I pointed out San. I couldn't even differentiate them at that point. And so I feel like as I started to like with these terms, it's a slippery slope with K-pop, okay? Once you find that group, you just fall into it. But once they started saying, "Oh, your bias is on," da da da, I was like, I don't know. And then I found myself wanting to know more. Like find myself wanting to like, okay, let me go back to that one video and like see the like, okay, I point out sound why, and then I'm like, oh, is a really good answer. Oh, Minty's just really awkward, but a great rapper. Hongju's a great lead. Like it just once you find one, it just keeps following. So ATs, I wouldn't say. ATs, I have a joking Delulu parasocial relationship with them. Like when it comes down to it, if like anything happens to ATs, like I'll be sad. Like if they disband or anything, I hope they don't. Like I'll be upset. Like whenever they go to the army, like I'll be like, dang, no new music. Because I genuinely do actually like their music. But like on the parasocial aspect of it, I think it's just like comforting. Like we had just graduated or we were in our last semester. Like it was just there. And I'm happy that it took up the time that it did because it was fun. I wasn't sitting here like crying myself to sleep because I have to write 8 papers about about conflict and resolution and change management and justice. Like I was just able to watch a video of them doing whatever they were doing and I was able to listen to their music. So I'm sorry, I forgot about it's literally not even in my notes. Like it's not it's not even in my notes.
I have it written in
That's funny.
capitals. I have it written in big, bolded letters, 80s. And I was intending to point it out if you guys didn't yourselves, but okay.
I'm weak. No, I just forgot because I don't consider them a parasocial relationship. I consider them a good time to pass
Yeah,
time.
I think that's one way of looking at it, isn't it? Or
That's
there are
fair, yeah.
different degrees of it, I guess. Okay. Oh, oof, with me. All right. I have always struggled to have parasocial relationships with any public figure, anybody, because I'm just like, okay, all right, you're cool. I'll watch your movie when it comes out next time. Oh, you said something really smart in public. Oh, I like that. Okay.
Mhm.
I'll I'll
Yeah.
I'll tune in when you do your next thing. Um, but I've never really had an intense parasocial relationship with any natural human being. It's not happened. I have, however, tried to have parasocial relationships because everybody else was having them. You know, everybody in
Hmm.
school loved One Direction. I was like, what is so special about them? I heard their music and I was like, okay. I tried really hard. It didn't happen. Before that, it was High School
Fair.
Musical. Everybody loved, what's his name?
Mm,
Zac Efron, and
Troy.
they
Zac
were like,
Efron.
Oh,
they were seeing High School Musical, this,
same.
that. I even bought books from like stores thing with the High School Musical on the cover and everything. I tried. I really tried. Trust me, it didn't happen. No, nothing. Zilch, nada, zero. But I did have a few parasocial relationships with fictional characters, in the sense that I would my first one, the most significant one would have to be Harry Potter. Just the world in itself and the characters. I got into Harry Potter during one of the darkest phases of my life, so it was a nice escape. I think I learned I learned to have fun by myself, and that was something that
Mhm.
Harry Potter helped me with. So I was emotionally invested in everything that was saying. So if J.K. Rowling said something stupid about the characters, because I started reading them after the last book came out. So if she said something stupid about the characters, in an interview, like how authors have this, oh, I'm done writing it now. I'm going to contemplate whether I made the right decision or not. It would bother me.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
shit that she said about Ron and Hermione, I'm like, stop. I have bought into your reality. You do not get to disrupt that reality with your music. No, it upsets me. It upsets me when they. It used to, at least. Now I just ignore it because it would still upset me. But it upsets me when they do stupid stuff like that. Like,
Hmm.
when they go back and they say, "Oh, this character was this character was that." I don't like it. So that was the first one, and then there were a couple of. This is embarrassing. and I don't know if I completely want it in the podcast, but I'm going to say it anyway. So there were a couple of Hindi shows, Hindi TV shows, from when I was a teenager. Back then, there were a few good ones that weren't completely crap. That is, they would have a good run for the first 150 episodes, 250 episodes before they are trash. I fell in love with the characters. There was this one show that I used to watch every day. I would come back from school, sit in front of the TV. I used to watch this show called Dil Mil Gaye, and I wouldn't understand half the stuff that was happening in there because I was like 11 or 12. No, I was 12, and I fell in love with the female lead in the sense that I loved her chemistry with the male lead, and then around 100 episodes later or so, she leaves the show. It broke my heart. It broke my heart. I was so sad. I was so upset. I almost cried. It made no sense to me. And I was like 12, so I had no idea what was going on. And the thing with Indian shows is if someone leaves the show, they don't kill the character, they replace the actor.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, and I don't like it, but they do that. It keeps the story.
Sorry, I'm thinking about the Fosters. If you ever seen it, like they replaced Jake T. Austin with Noah Cienzo. No disrespect, but that was awful replacement.
They do
Like
it
he went
all
to
the
wrestling
time.
camp and then completely changed his face. Like what?
You know what? At least here, I've seen a few shows in a few American shows where they have a reason for replacing an actor. They say that, oh, they got a plastic surgery done, something like that. Here, no. Straight up, they just replace the actor, and the actor's continuing, and there's no explanation of why this person looks different. It's as if it's blended into the storyline somehow, and it was this person with these looks who's been there since the first day. Yeah, they treat it like a play. Um, so that's yeah, that was the first one, and there was another one. There was another one that I really liked, and that was my last one. When I was around 14 or so, around the 10th grade, I was really stressed out, and my friends were like gushing over this one guy in some show called Is Pyar Ko Kya Naam Do. And I was like, okay, what's up? Why are you guys always talking about this? It's all you guys talk about. And I was like, okay, I'll go back home, and I watched it, and I was like, okay. And I started seeing the appeal. So I started watching. So I started
Sure
watching
said,
it.
I get it.
I didn't get it initially. I was like, oh god, this guy's an ass. He was an ass in the show. He was abusive, and I don't know why, but it was. I think it was the whole bad boy, toxic man falls in love and then changes himself.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, fine, and I watched a couple of episodes, and then I was like, he's cute.
That'll do it sometimes.
That's
It
all
was
it takes.
yeah, it was yeah, that lasted for a bit. And then but the thing is, that actor who played that role, I didn't like him in anything else, but I still have a soft corner for him. So whenever I see any new TV series that comes out, I'm watching that TV series, and he does good work these days, unlike what he did early on. So yeah, that's my parasocial stuff. BTS. Yeah, I've been
I
I
was gonna
swear
bring it up.
I
I
was
was
it was literally on the tip of my tongue. I was like, let her not say it. Let her not
yeah.
say it.
I was waiting.
shut up.
She just a quick side note, Shreya likes to say that she's not an army, which is the name for BTS fandom. She likes to say she's not an army. But everything she says and does goes against that statement.
Yeah.
Like completely. So I don't maybe you have your reasons as to why, but you can't say you're not and then do everything that says you are.
No, I
It's
don't
not
do
clicking.
that. I don't. I used to, yes. I don't anymore. So
It
I'm
was
not.
last summer.
Literally.
No, no. That was
Yeah.
because you were doing it.
Yeah.
I joined in. There's a difference.
Shreya. Shreya, be honest.
I'm
She's
being honest.
capping so hard right now.
Shut up. I'm not. I just joined the
Wow.
bandwagon. That's not
Okay,
the thing.
you can live in this false reality that you have. I am not taking part in it.
Wait, I'll tell you what. I got into BTS during the pandemic, or during the lockdown in India. And I listened to the music. I was like, "Oh, this is chill." And then I lost touch when I started working. And then when things started getting really bad at work, that's when I started listening again. Randomly, Airplane 2. That's the first song I listened to after that break. And I was like, nice. And then YouTube does its magic. And then the next thing that comes in autoplay is some random promo stuff that they did. Or it was a clip from one of their, what was that called? Those, They went on a voyage. One of the first ones. They went on a trip together, and it was of Jungkook basically calling some foreign lady Nuna or Duna or something, and I found that so hilarious. And then it just went on and on and on after that, and I started liking the personalities, their actual personalities, or if that is their real personality. And yeah, that was a rabbit hole, and I went down. And guess what? This was 3 months before they announced their what was that break? Was it?
The prioritization of solo
Yeah. So
activities.
when it was first, it was worded like they were saying bye. So I was like, those 24 hours or 48 hours before they issued that bloody, what was that called? Clarification note,
Yeah.
were the worst, worst. I was so sad. I was so depressed. It's not funny. That's when I said that no. No.
I'm
I'm not
laughing because
doing
I had the same experience.
I am not doing this to myself again, ever again. Nobody will ever hold such power over me. Nobody.
Fair.
So I stopped.
It's so funny because I watched that. I was getting ready for my internship. I was up in New York for my internship summer before my senior year of undergrad. And I watched it. I kid you not, I went to my internship and cried 3 times. I was like, I can't do this to
Well, I didn't cry. I didn't cry, but
I
I
was
was sad. I was so sad. I was like, I felt like somebody had died.
it
It
was
was
okay.
sad. Like it's like I'd applied for it's like I had applied for 10 jobs and I was graduating and I didn't get a job. You know that kind of melancholy sadness, that despair that you feel? That's what I felt. And that's when I was like, no, no, no.
Okay.
And that's when I stepped
Oh my
out.
God.
So when you say I'm an army, I'm not. I'm not. Honestly, I don't do enough to be an army. I did at one point. I know enough to be an army, but I'm not. Because I won't do that anymore. Never.
Okay, that's fair. But okay, that's fair. But I also feel like there's no one way to be an army. You can be an army and not
Yeah.
engage like that. So you don't have to. If it helps you to separate it, if you say you're not an army, okay, cool. But you can be an army and just be chill and listen to them every now and again. Appreciate them from afar. You don't have to, because I don't do all the stuff that like most armies say, like, oh yeah, you gotta do X, or most fandoms in general. I don't do that,
Yeah.
but let somebody tell me I'm not an army, please.
Like I'm an 18, but I literally just listen to music, and then
Yeah.
from here and there, like I'll watch like an interview or something. Like the other day, I was doing work and Turbulence came on by ATs, and
Mhm.
then I was like, I really want to hear this. I really want to hear this live. So I went on YouTube and I watched it live, and then I went back to doing work, and that was it. So like I'm not like an 18. Like I don't know all the facts or all the information, but I'm still a fan of ATs. Like it's okay to call yourself an army if it helps you separate it so you don't feel that emotional attachment and that depression that you felt for those 24 hours, then fine. But to say you're not an army, I feel like is not an accurate statement
I,
or a complete one.
I mean, I'd always be happy for them. I'd always root for them. But it's just, I will not engage the same way ever again. And I wasn't doing all
Fair.
the stuff that regular armies did even back then. Even then, I wasn't doing any of that. I was just watching their stuff. And I felt like there was this sort of emotional thing going on from my end, which was very sad and pathetic. But I just feel like that's too much power. It's just too much power to,
It is.
Yeah.
yeah.
It
And
is.
like I said, over inflated sense of ego, nobody will have that sort of power over me. Nobody.
That's
Period.
fair.
So yeah.
That is more than fair. Um, okay. I think that's the end of this podcast. That was hilarious. Like my stomach hurts. And I wasn't laughing at you guys with the whole like 24 hours. Well, let me say that. I
No,
was
it
laughing
is
at you
funny.
guys.
Laugh at us,
Yeah, it
please.
was
No,
funny. Pathetic.
I was laughing at you guys, but it wasn't like oh this is so stupid. Like it was just like wow. And I can't say anything because when Zayn announced that he was leaving One Direction, I was in my fourth period speech class freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
We were in the library, we were doing research for our speeches, and I started crying and I walked outside and I called my dad crying. And my dad was in the car with my sisters and he was like, Rose, why are you calling me about this? I was like, he's leaving. He was like, okay, yeah, and then he said, and my dad always said this. He was like, give him 5 years, they're gonna break up. 5 years later, they were done. So he's like, I told you, I told you. I was like, that's not helping me. So like I get it, but like I was 15.
I was 23. It does not. No, when did they break up? 2021? 2022? When was it? When was it?
Who broke
BTS.
up?
I mean,
Who?
their focus, whatever, suspension.
Oh, I thought you were talking about One Direction. That was summer 2022, June.
You were 15. I was
I
I
was
was
14.
21.
Sorry.
14. I was what? I can't do math right now. I was almost 25. No, 24. I was 24.
Wow.
We have done this because
Yeah.
I'm literally
It's
like I'm laughing
embarrassing.
at like, and what's crazy is been there, so like I can't even like say anything, but that is hilarious. Okay, thanks for listening. I like this one, the parasocial.
Very
Um,
fun.
Yeah, it is
it
fun.
could definitely. Oh, go ahead.
I just said it was fun.
Oh, it cut out in my ears. It can definitely be a part two. It's like a never-ending topic, honestly. But yeah. So next time,
Till next
Oh,
time.
drop any parasocial relationships y'all have in the
Ooh,
comments.
ooh, ooh, hold on. You
please.
know what? It's really interesting. We're talking about parasocial social relationships right now, right? In 2025. In the 1970s, India released a movie called Goody. It was a Hindi movie called Goody, and it was about parasocial relationships. You guys should watch that movie. It's about a girl, a young girl, who is so obsessed with an actor that she thinks that she's married to him, or she basically has devoted her entire life to this person, and she refuses to move on in her personal life. It's parasocial relationships 101. It was funny.
There was a catfish episode where this guy thought he was in a relationship with Katy Perry. Yo, literally, like, there's so many. Like, it goes so far.
No,
But
no, yeah,
I'm happy to state that the three of us have reined it into a
yeah,
normal,
Yeah.
based off of our definitions of what a
Yeah.
parasocial relationship should be.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I've ever let it get bad ever. I think we've been good at that. We're not like others.
I let it get bad, but especially with fictional characters, because I have no boundaries, I let it get bad there. But
Oh.
I think if
Oh wait, that was the other thing I was gonna say before the BTS thing with you. I was gonna say I don't have fictional parasocial relationships. I don't think. I guess I have to dive into them more. But
Hmm,
like, I don't think there's any. But I also don't. I don't care for fiction. Like y'all know, I don't read fiction books. I try. I
Yeah.
just can't get into it. And then like when it comes to TV shows and movies, I kind of just rewatch the same things. Well, I used to really love movies, but it was because of the creation of the movie,
yeah,
not the actors, like the directing and the screenwriting and all that. So. It's interesting when you guys said like Harry Potter. I was like, I would have never thought of a parasocial relationship in that way.
you tell you what, it's not about the actor or the character. In fact, it's just about the storyline. I'm imaginative in the sense that I dream a lot. So I immediately get into that world and I start thinking about, oh, what would have happened after this particular scene? What would have happened after the show ended? So my head is not satisfied. I'm not satisfied with the ending. So then I start creating my own world. That's where it gets a
Hmm.
little delulu.
I mean, I do that too, but I guess not to the same extent.
Yeah,
Like I'm
I
just
don't. I'm
like,
not a part of the delulu world. It's them, but I'm not that delulu.
deflect.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay,
Okay.
we're
Bye for
we're
real.
90 minutes. 90 minutes. Okay, bye.
bye guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mosaic Podcast.
Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay updated on new posts and episodes. Also, tune in to our blog where TMarie posts every Monday, Roseberry every Wednesday, and I, Shreya, every Thursday.
We're grateful you're here, and we look forward to embracing the intersections of identity together in the episodes to come. Until next time,
Stay curious.
Stay true.
and stay unapologetically you. Bye.